The following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op.
We've spent close to $10 trillion on wars, and they didn't tax the American people for that, because they know they couldn't tax us enough to pay. We would put an end to it. If they tried to raise everybody's taxes enough to come up with $10 trillion because we want to go fight regime change wars all over the Middle East, the American people would have been like, no, we're not doing that. But they didn't do that. They kept taxes where they were. I think they even cut some rates during those years, top rates. And then they borrowed the rest, and they still couldn't borrow enough, so they just print the money. And then essentially what happens is that the price of everything just goes up and up and up. And you just put more money into the system, and then people start looking around and going like, geez, why is the price of housing and healthcare and energy and childcare totally unaffordable? And the answer is because you're paying for the war in Iraq. And nobody thinks about it like that. But that's really what's going on. They can't. So for all the young people who are coming out of college now, and they're like, I'm 150 grand in debt. I have a gender studies major degree or whatever, maybe something better than that, but they got an English degree or something, and they're working at DoorDash, and the average house is going for 600 grand. And they're like, what am I possibly going to do? It's like the reason why these kids are all demanding socialism, at least on the left, is because, like, what else are you going to do? Like, how do you even... But the reason why that is the case is because your government decided to spend trillions of dollars on blowing up brown countries, and in some cases then rebuilding them to blow them up again. I mean, this is the actual cost of the thing. And I feel like it's almost nobody outside of like the Ron Paul libertarians, the Austrian economics guys, almost nobody else ever makes this connection. That it's like, this is the deal. You can't be a world empire without having a central bank that can print money for you, because otherwise it just doesn't work. Resources are finite and you'll run out of them. And so you can't do that without having this monetary system. But the cost of this monetary system is that prices always go up and up and up and up, and that rigs the entire economy against the working class and the middle class in favor of the rich. It's just the way it is. When the value of assets is going up and up and up and up, that's great if you own stuff. That's great if you own stuff and you're selling it. If you got $1 billion in the bank, inflation is your best friend. But if you're on a fixed income or you're a working class person, it just destroys you.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Defion Productions podcast. This is episode number 123. I am your host, the hardest working nobody in Bitcoin, Don. We just got the pleasure of seeing a clip from a Joe Rogan podcast from actually a couple years ago of Dave Smith talking about all the problems that he sees with our monetary system. And he went into detail later on in that podcast about how Bitcoin is a solution. I thought it was a good way to kick things off today to kind of have this conversation that we're going to have around finances, around what happened last week in regards to Pam Bondi, and basically saying the quiet part out loud in regards to what's really important, not necessarily pedophiles, but how our stock market is performing apparently is more important to our government. We're going to have that conversation. We're going to talk about Ray Dalio's New World Order, the big tweet that's gone viral that he made this week, and more. We'll start with the charts, taking a look at the current price of Bitcoin. Down about 2.2% in the last 7 days, 68,672, basically flat the last day. Total market cap of crypto at 2.36 trillion. Fear and greed index at extreme fear of 12. Going down the line of shitcoins, taking a look at Ethereum sitting a shade under 2K. 1994, XRP $1.48, and going down the shitcoin casinos, you can kind of see everything just kind of flat and blah. We pop things off with that video there. I want to jump right into the next video, which unless you were living under a rock, you missed Miss Pam Bondi's stellar performance with getting hammered by both parties. It's good to see Republicans and Democrats come together on something, the Epstein files, and Pam Bondi basically crashing out. And this is a clip from her being asked specific questions about the files, being asked about sex crimes, and this was Pam Bondi's response to those types of questions.
The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan.
Committee will be in order.
Mr. Jordan, am I going to get an extra 45 seconds added to my time?
The committee will be in order. The time belongs to the gentleman from Texas. Ms. Bondi, the Attorney General can respond.
Thank you. The Dow has shattered 50,000 for the first time. This is crazy. They said it couldn't be done in 4 years, yet President Trump has done it in 1 year.
Ironically enough, literally the next day, the Dow dropped about 500 points to about 49,500. So it didn't stay at 50,000 very long. But the greater conversation to have in regards to this absolutely abysmal display by Pam Bondi in front of Congress is she was being asked questions specifically about potentially one of the biggest covert operations ran by potentially our government, multiple governments, including billionaires like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk. We saw the guy, the Sultan, I forget his name, that basically built Dubai, about how he's sending torture videos to Epstein, potential co-conspirator. She was asked questions about that, completely dodged it. Asked questions about Leslie Wexner, about how he was a co-conspirator named in there and redacted, completely dodged it. She wanted to talk about the Dow being $50,000, which the Dow is not dollars. The Dow was points, which was funny when she started to say that, that in and of itself. But, I watched a couple videos on YouTube and a couple podcasts, and I saw some people make some very good points. She was kind of telling you what really this is all about. We're not going to get anybody in these files to be brought to trial. We're not going to have any outcomes that anybody's going to be satisfied with in regards to any of the people that were doing any of these crimes alongside of Jeffrey Epstein. And the reason is, if we did, that it would probably absolutely obliterate our stock market and, as a byproduct, global markets. Because as we're seeing in these files, some of the richest and most powerful people were a part of whatever the hell was going on that we're never really going to know for sure. I mean, we have a lot of emails, we have a lot of files, and we got some direction, but the actual investigative part of that, where people would actually be brought to trial and disposed in discovery and all that kind of stuff that will go along with an actual indictment. I don't think we're ever going to get that, because if we did, it would completely tank the markets. And as much as the Republican and Democrat congressmen are kind of, holding their hands up in regards to the files, it's really Massey and Ro Khanna that are really pressing. And the rest of them are just kind of like fake outraged. And the people that are paying these campaigns are like, you're not going to go all the way with this. We're not going to go all the way with this because, we got the Dow ripping at 50K, next stop 55K, next stop 60K, S&P, NASDAQ, everybody's making money. Everybody is in the richest of the rich. And I think that's what she was telling us. And I don't know what you thought, Rich, when you saw that, but, that was kind of my takeaway when she was talking about the stock market, when she was asked a question that had absolutely nothing to do with the stock market, was be happy, shut up, and just leave me alone and leave us alone.
That's not her department. If she was the Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Finance,
Treasury, yep.
Treasury, then I would totally be acceptable for her response. But she's done nothing for those victims. She can blame the guy before or whatever. Who cares? I don't care. You're in the seat now. Well, my last teacher didn't tell me to put my cell phone away. Why do I have to put, no, it doesn't matter what happened in the past. You are with me now, and we're telling you that this is what it should be. And that's kind of like what she did. And she just sounded like, Trump in a Truth Social post. Like, the Dow, this thing about, look at how great we should be. At one point she said we should be apologizing to President Trump. Like, that's not
the greatest, most transparent president in the history of presidents, she said.
Okay, then we have, sure, okay. I mean, it's just a lot of she turned herself into a meme. She really did. The whole weekend, everybody was
terrible. Saturday Night Live opened with her.
Yeah, but I mean, even before that, for 2 days before that, everybody was having a ball, doing, try that at home. Honey, did you take out the garbage? I didn't take out the garbage because the Dow is at 50K. It was just
yeah.
How can I use this? Can I use this to get out of trouble in other circumstances? I get pulled over by the police. There was just so many great memes, things from movies. It was just great. But again, nothing will happen to her. Nothing are going to happen to these people, like you said, because was it she who said it, or was somebody else that said it? We can't prosecute these people because the whole system would collapse. So I don't know if that was her. It wasn't in this. It was there. It might have been one of the other people. It might have been the one who dresses up in funny outfits with her guns and stuff. I can't think of her
Kristi
name.
Noem.
Kristi Noem. I think she's the one who said we can't do anything about it because it would collapse the system if we
She
prosecuted
did.
everybody.
She did. She's not the only one. A couple other people have said it as well.
So
they're saying it out
they're
loud.
Not wrong.
They're not. I think that's
there's too much money in corruption. And there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah. And you're seeing a lot of people online are just saying burn it all down, and I don't blame them for feeling that way. And it's a lot of young people. A lot of young people are saying that. A lot of young people are saying that. I think the older generations, like our generation up, are kind of afraid of that, and I think there's enough. The problem is the money's concentrated with Gen X and above. That's where it's concentrated. Yeah. So Gen X and above, while maybe feeling outraged about these Epstein files, are also probably you're right. If we really found out that all these people are really corrupt and it burns the system down, then I'm never going to retire. And all this hard work that I've done for the last 30 years of my life, 40 years of my life, just for nothing. He didn't do anything to anybody I know. I think that's terrible to think like that. But I think that there's a lot of justifying being done by, boomers and Gen Xers like our generation who are let's tread carefully here. I'd love to see, good theatrics, but we really don't want to see it go all the way and the system just collapse because of this. Because I think he had, and again, I don't think Epstein was the only one. I think there's dozens, if not hundreds of other Epsteins running around. And this type of stuff is just normal.
From a financial standpoint, to keep this about finance and not just about politics, Maxwell, she testified and took the fifth on
everything.
But
even things that would incriminate her, which makes no sense.
But if you look at her dad and what her dad did, he embezzled.
Wasn't he either indicted or found guilty of financial crimes?
Off his boat and died. The most James Bondy.
And she took over the enterprise of everything.
And not just her though. People forget. There's a whole video. And
Robert Maxwell, right?
Robert Maxwell. Yep. Her sisters have all been heavily involved.
Brothers. Her brothers were. I watched a YouTube video about her, and her brothers were indicted.
I mean, the run was the go-between with Silicon Valley and Israel. There's so many crazy things that this family's been involved in and then got these great positions out of. It's like they were the one. It's almost like if it was a movie, you would think that they had their dad killed. Allegedly. But again, the fact is all these guys that are in there, we know what they're doing. In addition to the terrible things that they're doing, they're also doing terrible things with their companies, which is hurting everybody. And that's, to me, ultimately, who I don't care. Then they're all. The other one was, I don't even remember. I think it was the Secretary of Commerce that was talking about maybe it wasn't Commerce, but he was talking about retirement age. I don't know if you saw that one too. We have to look at the retirement age differently. Like some careers should be retiring earlier than others, and like it was just. It's all
I know a
deflection.
couple of months back, Ben Shapiro was saying that we should raise the retirement age, which is just completely asinine and so tone deaf.
But he was saying stuff like, well, maybe like someone who works in an office can work longer because it's not hard, but a roofer should be able to retire earlier. Like, what is that? I mean, how does that mean one person has one job for the 50 years? Like, how do you, like, it's all
it's ridiculous.
deflection.
That's what it is. It's absolutely
again,
ridiculous.
But he was talking about like all that stuff. And I don't care that wages went up a little bit in 2025 because ultimately, like, it kept up with inflation for a year. But how many years of it doesn't matter if they caught up last year because the prices are still way too high for everything. So salaries have to not triple, but you need to be triple whatever inflation is to even make a dent with how much prices are coming.
A local celebrity entered the chat. Mr. Pat Proctor, who I feel like should run for mayor. Just he I can't see because my eyes are terrible. Can you put it up so I can see what he
I like Pat. Pat's a good dude.
Pat's definitely a good dude. I can't see that either. Can you read it?
I'm not sure if you guys have touched on this, but I have to ask, how does asking for Bitcoin for Savannah Guthrie's mom make them all think they can get away with it? There has to be a trail somewhere to lead to authorities to find the criminals, right?
Yeah, the Savannah Guthrie case, asking for Bitcoin. I have my doubts. I can't speak on it like I'm well versed because I have, my wife has been like sleuthing over it, like obsessed with all this stuff, and I haven't. But what I will say, just from like past and what I know about Bitcoin and the blockchain, Bitcoin is not like there's a misunderstanding with the public. Like Bitcoin is a public ledger. Like you shouldn't be using Bitcoin if you're a criminal. Like those days, the Silk Road days of like buying hitmen and buying drugs on Silk Road and then the dark web, like those are so 2012, 2013. Like people aren't using Bitcoin for, like Elizabeth Warren wants to tell you, crimes. It's fairly easy with someone who understands blockchain technology to find somebody, especially since a lot of those like Tornado Cash, like where they would use these mixers to like mix the transactions to make it harder for people to track. Like they've really cracked down on a lot of those. So it makes me very skeptical that there's any that it's real, that 6 million in Bitcoin that was actually the people who actually had Savannah Guthrie's mom, because Bitcoin is one of the least likely cryptocurrencies that you're going to use because it's not a privacy coin. It's a public ledger. It's everybody can audit it. Like it's just not that type of token, not that type of thing that you would use. So to answer Pat's question, I don't think it's real, and I think it's kind of being. I mean, it's been what, 2 weeks now that alleged ransom, and she said, Savannah and the family said, we will pay whatever you want to get her back, and I think if that was real and they were serious, that some sort of transaction would have happened by now, and whoever would have kidnapped her is not going to be asking for Bitcoin. It's just they're not. That would be a very stupid for them to do. You're more likely to not get caught by asking for a briefcase of unmarked bills than you are of asking for Bitcoin. And that's one of the things that makes Bitcoin like really great. It's completely audible, transparent, don't trust, verify, like we always say. So Pat, my non-educated on this Savannah Guthrie thing would be that was probably never really legitimate ask by the actual people that may have taken her, in my opinion.
The whole thing is so weird because
in my
they're
opinion,
only communicating with TMZ, and now it turns out that the guy from TMZ's got some weird connections to Epstein too, and there's
he was in Harvey was in the Epstein files.
And then there's even like one of the conspiracy things going around about Guthrie's mother is that like recently she interviewed a lot of the victims.
Savannah did?
Yeah.
Oh.
And so there's a lot of people that are like, okay, you want to do that? Well, we're going to come after you. And I've watched enough thrillers on Netflix and
If I were to make
HBO, like,
if I were to
movies.
make an opinion on this, and to take it with a grain of salt that holds no value, if I were to guess, I would say she's dead. Because I guess she has medical issues and she didn't have her medication.
I concur. I don't
think she's alive.
I don't think you're saying anything out of bounds here, like that they murdered her. I think like just based on some of her medical, her medical things that are going on her medically. I don't know how they didn't take her meds when they took her, so who knows?
Yeah, I think it was botched. I think they didn't realize. He made another comment?
Oh, you got one more from Pat. And Cash made a comment too.
Oh, Cash, do your homework. What is it? I appreciate
it. Just an all around. Thank you for the answer, and thank you for not being on the Epstein list. Go Yankees. Well, we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's 3 million files
they
left.
They might have redacted you, Don.
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe both of us.
I talk a lot of shit that my name might be on there somewhere. If I ain't on the Epstein files, I'm definitely on the NSA Patriot Act. They're definitely tapping all my shit. The way the anti-Trump stuff I've said on this podcast for the past 2 years. So, there's that. Going on to the lead of what we caption this podcast, New World Order. Mr. Ray Dalio, billionaire extraordinaire, Bridgewater Capital founder, has been on a tear the last couple of weeks, and he tweeted something that would take you, if you're interested, and I would suggest taking the time if you're into such things. If you're watching this podcast, you must care about finance at least a little bit. And this is a very well-written, very next-level tweet from Ray Dalio. I'm not going to read the entire thing because it'll take you about a half an hour to read it from start to finish. So I'm not going to take that type of time doing so. I'm going to read the first couple of paragraphs just to give you a gist of like how he sets the stage. And I would implore you to go to Ray Dalio's Twitter. He has it pinned, posted to his Twitter account. It's got 73 million impressions. That's absolutely asinine. 78,000 likes, 19K reshares, 3,500 comments. I'm going to read the first couple paragraphs, and like I said, I will implore you to go to his Twitter to read the rest. At the Munich Security Conference, the post-1945 world order was pronounced dead by most leaders, and the picture behind it was laid out in the Security Report 2026 entitled Under Destruction, which you can read here if you're interested. More specifically, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said, "The world order as it has stood for decades no longer exists, and that we are in a period great power politics." He made clear that freedom is no longer a given in this new era. French President Emmanuel Macron echoed Merz's assessment and said that Europe's old security structures tied to the previous world order don't exist and that Europe must prepare for war. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that we are in a new geopolitics era because the old world is gone. In my parlance, we are in the stage 6 part of the big cycle in which there is a great disorder arising from being in a period in which there are no rules. Might is right, and there is a clash of great powers. How stage 6 works is explained in detail in chapter 6, the big cycle of external order and disorder. In my book, Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order, while I previously shared a lengthy set of excerpts from chapter 5, the big cycle of internal order and disorder, you could see how it is going on United States tracks, the classic cycle explained in this chapter. I am including all of the chapter 6 here for your review. Given the now nearly universal agreement that the post-1945 world order has broken down and that we are entering a new world order, I would think it would be worth your time to read. And I'll just read the first paragraph of this chapter 6, the big cycle of external order and disorder. Relationships between people and the orders that govern them work in basically the same ways, whether they are internal or external, and they blend together. In fact, it wasn't long ago that there were no distinctions between internal and external orders because there were no clearly defined and mutually recognized boundaries between countries. For that reason, the 6-stage cycle of going between order and disorder that I described in the last chapter about what happens within countries works the same way between countries with one big exception. International relations are driven much more by raw power dynamics. That is because all governance systems require effective and agreed upon, number 1, laws and lawmaking abilities, 2, law enforcement capabilities, for example, police. 3, ways of adjudicating, for example, judges. And 4, clear and specified consequences that both suit crimes and are enforced, for example, fines and incarcerations. And those things either don't exist or are not as effective in guiding relations between countries as they are in guiding relations within them. So I'm not going to, like I said, keep going through the rest of this. I will read, somebody did put at Grok summarize this article for me and give me the main points, so I'll show that, which, Grok is amazing on X. Ray Dalio's article discusses the collapse of the post-1945 order, entering a stage 6 phase of great disorder where might is right and there are no rules. Main points. Global leaders acknowledge the end of the old system, leading to great power clashes. International relations follow law of the jungle with 5 conflict types. Trade, economic, technology, geopolitical, capital, military. Wealth equals power. U.S.-China tensions risk escalation, especially over Taiwan. Wars are unpredictable and worse than imagined. Advise wise use of power to avoid them. Economic wars often precede shooting wars. So like I said, if you want to go to Ray Dalio's Twitter and read that in full, there are LLMs that you can use that I guess if you put all that in, it'll spit out an AI version that'll read back to you kind of like in a Amazon Kindle type way, which I don't know how to do. I'm not that versed in those types of things. But Ray Dalio has been beating this drum for quite some time now. He really does feel that we are at the 4th turning, that things are about to get really, really bad. And to go back to what we talked about in regards to Pam Bondi, like focusing on the stock market, I think the people in power, and Ray Dalio would be one of those, 3,000 and change billionaires in the world. So he's in that elite club. And I think the people in power and the people with mass wealth, I think they're scared. I think there's some fear, Rich, that we might get a 2008 type GFC that is deeper than what the 2008 GFC was, because we had the money printing and we did a lot of things to kind of stave off a complete economic global collapse. But I think there's some people with power that are afraid, and I don't know. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, for sure, because they'll lose their influence and their wealth. It's just their influence and stuff. That type of collapse would be very difficult for them. And I think that's the same reason they're worried about everything. They're worried about Epstein. They're worried about all this stuff, because it is a threat to their way of doing things. But I mean, like, to me, a lot of it is just, can they delay it long enough so it happens after they're too old to care. Maybe they care if their kids and their grandkids or whatever inherit it, but like ultimately, it's bad. Like, and that's why I don't get inflation, blah blah blah, or like the wages went up 3.1%, which I don't even know if that's accurate because I don't trust anything the government drops. They only drop certain statistics that they feel like dropping. So
they keep revising stuff every other month anyway, so you never know what's true and what isn't.
Right. So I mean, like, I think that this is a threat to them. I mean, like, Russia's not in the New World Order, and they are and they aren't. But like look at it from the standpoint of and that was one thing you said, in the first video that you showed, was talking about, like, we spent all this money, and that's why the Soviet Union collapsed, because they were spending more money, and they did not have the ruble wasn't the dollar, so they couldn't keep printing money. You have the decision to invade Afghanistan, plus you have Chernobyl, which bankrupted that country. There was no way they could keep up, and it collapsed. Their government collapsed, and there was no way for them to fix it. Because as strong as the Soviet Union once was as a military power, they were never a huge economic power.
No.
And they did
mass poverty. They had high unemployment, mass poverty, even when they were considered one of the global superpowers.
And all those Russian oligarch types all just left.
Yeah.
They took their money and they left the country with the money.
Went to France. Yep. Middle East.
And then and moved to England and moved to London and bought soccer teams. And,
Yep.
And then now that group's been kind of phased out, and now and again they've lost their clout, and they're being replaced by the New World Order, which is essentially the rich folks in the Middle East, like, who are buying everything. And then people are very threatened by that. But again, the order, and that you showed a video 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. That is still a great video where the rise and fall of empires.
Yeah.
And I love that video because it was like, I would say the United States, unless they make some major changes, we're on that downslope.
That was a Ray Dalio video too. Ray Dalio made that video. Yeah.
I think I should click to my follow him now. So no, I mean, like, these videos you're finding are great, and I think they're very effective to try to really explain why people are looking at expectations for other things. So nice job.
I have another video I'm going to show. Before I do, since we're halfway through the podcast, I want to tell anybody that's watching that's not following me already, or subscribe to the YouTube channel, Defion Labs Productions. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow me on X, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that stuff that I'm absolutely terrible at self-promotion for. I just love doing this every week, and I forget that stuff. So since I remembered halfway through this podcast, thought I'd throw it out there since we do have some people watching live. This video I'm going to show here is from the Tucker Carlson podcast. Representative Tim Burkett was being interviewed by Tucker, and this is a 1:59 clip that has some relevance that we can talk about after we watch it, Rich.
So what do we get for $1 trillion a year to the U.S. military? Do we get anything in return?
We get some enhanced stock portfolios, and I'll give you a great example. When Joe Biden gave our our missile defense system, I haven't voted for a penny for Ukraine. I'm proud of that. It's not my dadgum war. I'm not sending my 18-year-old daughter to a country that most members of Congress couldn't find on a dadgum globe.
Yeah.
And so you have, we give them our missile defense system, and then we have to replenish ours, which we should. We can't be left naked without any of that defense. And guess what? Some of those contractors we described get a multi-billion with a B dollar no bid contract. And who do you think has bought stock in that company? Members of Congress, 2 weeks prior to the president making that official notice. And you see it time and time again. I mean, do you honestly believe members of Congress are making 5 and 6? You've met some of these guys. I mean, they can't come in out of the rain, some of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guilty of that as well. But
No,
they're making
but
500
there's
and 600%.
a lot of really damaged
Return on their
Yeah.
500 and 600% return on their investment, and war is great for business. It's great for the economy, but it's not good for. I don't think it's good for our souls.
No, there's nothing worse. Killing people is not good. I know that's a controversial statement.
Yeah.
But why is it impossible to ban stock trading for members of Congress?
That's a great idea. I have the bill to do it, and that's why, we have a bipartisan group again. Myself and Priya Paul, and I never get her name right, but Cortez and me and Chip Roy and a bunch of others. We've got a bill, but it's not going anywhere.
Why?
Because too many members of Congress. I mean, we were told by leadership that, these guys can't afford to be here. You know what? If you can't afford to be in Congress and go get another dadgum job, more people have played professional baseball in the major leagues than have been in the United States.
Lot to unpack in that. Started out with the $1 trillion that we spend on defense for this country, which is actually what we spend on interest now on our national debt. So those two things are going step by step. That's one part of it. Then they pivot into talking about stock trading and it being illegal in Congress and them trying to propose bills. That will never pass, ever pass. You literally have the people that are monetarily benefiting the most that are supposed to vote on a bill that would stop them from becoming multi-millionaires, if not decamillionaires. Like, it's never going to pass. Like, let's just be honest. It's not going to pass. I don't care how many senators and congressmen and congresswomen that you have proposing a bill. This shit ain't passing. There's just absolutely no way. Same thing with term limits. They're never going to have term limits. It's a complete carnage of just filth and waste in our, like, I can't think of a time ever, and maybe it's because of social media and podcasts like this and ones that are way bigger than this podcast that talk about it all the time and just shed light on it. I can't think of a time in our history where we haven't looked at our Congress and just been like, fuck every single one of them, except for like maybe 2 or 3 or maybe 4. Like, they're just pieces of shit that are legislating laws for our country that we vote in, which we don't actually vote in. Like, newsflash, voting's not real. It's all rigged. It's rigged by the fact that you need so much money to run these campaigns to even be a guy that's going to be running. So it's and I don't want to run down that rabbit hole and really get people pissed off, but like it's rigged. That's why I don't vote, and I probably will never vote again in my lifetime, because if you think it's fair, you're just out of your godforsaken mind. It's completely rigged. These guys get in here, these gals get in here, they become career politicians, and you go vote and you think that you're voting people out, but you're not. Somebody made a decision behind the scenes, primaried somebody, threw money behind somebody else, and got them out. And the narrative changed. And you jumped along in the narrative and you think your vote actually meant something, and it doesn't. And we're just shedding light on all that stuff, and I'm ranting. And here, you're more the political guy than I am. And that's why,
No, you're not wrong. I mean, term limits, the only way term limits will ever pass is if your grandfather did. That would be the only thing. If it ever was a ridiculous amount of pressure that came from the public that they wanted term limits to go, that would be the only way, and it would be grandfathered. So anybody that was currently in Congress would be fine. They could stay as long as they want, but any of the new people, that's the only way it would ever pass. In terms of the stock market thing, that's never going to pass because that's how they make money. And that answer that the congressman had was like, well, they need the money because they can't afford blah, 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 blah. Well, I mean, like, no offense, but like, I don't know exactly how it works for the people in Congress, but I know what they get in terms of meal expenses and travel expenses and all that stuff. So lots of people travel for work and have to live in two places, and there's some substance. I mean, there's ways they could do it. So like to allow them to do insider trading isn't an answer. Like, isn't an excuse. Well, we have to allow them insider trading because otherwise they can't afford it. We know many, and unfortunately, the ones that we don't know about or that are probably trying to be honest people, the ones we never hear of because they get shoved in the worst office in the building, and they can't get anything. Like they're because they won't play the game. And
can you throw this comment on the screen? I hate to interrupt, but I just found this in the comments, and I think it's really good. Myron Giddon commented on this post. This is the scam scheme laid out clearly. Step 1, Congress knows which military contractors will get contracts because they control the process. Yeah. Step 2, buy stock in those companies before the announcement. Step 3, award no-bid contracts worth billions. Step 4, stock price soars. Step 5, sell for 500 to 600% profit. This is textbook insider trading, illegal for everyone except Congress. The Ukraine war is a perfect example. Biden announces a missile defense system for Ukraine. We need to replenish ours. Multi-billion-dollar no-bid contracts go to defense contractors. Who bought stock 2 weeks before the announcement? Members of Congress. Who made 500 to 600% returns on information because they had the ones awarding the contract? This isn't speculation. A congressman on record explained exactly how it works. War is great for business. Yeah, for their business, their personal stock portfolios. They profit from war, from sending weapons, from spending taxpayer money on contracts awarded to companies they're invested in. That's why wars never end. Why we're always involved somewhere, why defense spending always increases, because Congress members get rich off of it. 500 to 600% returns while Americans pay for wars that enrich politicians' stock portfolios. This should be illegal. It is illegal for everyone else, but Congress exempted themselves. They can engage in insider trading, profit from their own policy decisions, and award contracts to companies they own stock in. And they do. Constantly. The Ukraine war is just the latest example. War is great for business, your money, their profits. That's laid out so perfect, and it kind of supports my thesis where I've said this before on this podcast. I've said it on record. I say with 100% certainty, World War III will never happen. World War III, the war that we've been afraid of for 50 or 60 years, where the whole planet gets wiped out, will absolutely 100% never happen. What will continue to happen is the fear and threat of that, which allows us to put our soldiers in spots in the earth along the planet where there's conflicts, and I say that in quotation marks, where we send money here, we send money there, and all the people the 535 people that are in our running our government all make tons of money on it, constantly involved somewhere, bomb Iran, go to Ukraine, go to Russia. We're worried about China taking over Taiwan. We always got to have some narrative where we have to spend money, and it all gets cycles back. And Lindsey Graham either Lindsey Graham or Mitch McConnell, one of the two, said, oh, you shouldn't worry about all the money we're spending in Ukraine because 95% of it comes back here. He said the quiet part a lot. If you pay attention, they tell you exactly what they're doing.
But it's
you just
not
have to know what to
coming back
listen
to. The
to.
average person. It's
No,
not coming back
absolutely
in
not.
the way of like a rebate or lower taxes. It's coming back to the government. It's just coming back to the government. It's never going to trickle down. And that's like Halliburton. I mean, that was the big thing with the Iraq war and all of that. And that was, again, that was about, about we had all these things and we had to use them so we could buy more. So we can't just buy things if we already have them. So we have to use all these bombs and helicopters and planes and soldiers so that we can get new ones. And we have to find a way to rah-rah and make it like the thing that's different now. And this is the thing. Yes, military enrollment's up a little bit, but the one thing that's happened in this country is that people don't want our guys and gals going into conflict. Anytime you start to hear about we were going to invade Venezuela, and I'm not talking about like SEAL Team 6 or those guys. Like, I'm talking about the average thing where we're deploying, 10,000 troops into the Congo or something like that. That is not, I doubt that's majorly going to happen unless there's another 9/11 type attack where they can get us all rah-rahed. And I'm not saying they won't do that. Somebody will do it. But in general, I just don't think.
Did you see the 9/11 stuff in the Epstein files?
Was that?
Did you see the 9/11 stuff in the Epstein files?
Yeah.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole. I mean, we don't have enough time to talk about that. I caught that yesterday. I think I saw it. There's a couple emails where like Ghislaine Maxwell was asked to be a part of a shadow committee on 9/11, like a week or two after 9. I don't know. It's wild. Some of that stuff's just wild, man.
There's so many things about that, and like you said, just like this, we're never going to know. There's so many things we're never going to know, and it's because they can't. Because if we ever really found out, if it really ever came out, then the system would collapse. Everything would collapse because 80% of the population will lose their shit, and that's really what it comes down to. And especially if real like that type of stuff happen. I don't know. I mean, I remember we were taught in elementary school. I remember even into high school, we were very concerned about a nuclear war. Like our kids don't think about a nuclear war. Like we were told growing up, living again. You've announced we live in Western New York. I mean, we can practically see the Niagara Falls Power Authority, which generates power for all over the East Coast. It's down the road. We could walk there in 5 minutes. And we grew up knowing that we were one of the Russian targets that they would blow up. And we know that now. We realize that wasn't going to be, because the politicians of today, and I'm ranting, I guess, the politicians of today are so bought and sold by the rich people that don't want their shit blown up, that I agree with you. We'll probably never have that type of war because it would blow up their shit. Their shit would get broken.
It's the threat of war.
Yeah.
It's not actual war.
It's
like not the real like World War II. Like too many people die. It's the threat, the conflicts, and the rebuilds. Like bomb a couple things and then go in there and rebuild it. That's where all the money's at. Yeah, I see. The son needs to chill out on his comments on our post here.
Block 'em.
Yeah. I got another video here of one of the most popular guys in the Epstein files, apparently, Mr. Captain STD, William Gates. I'll play this video and then we'll talk about it after.
Billy G.
Another place that India leads, but there's a lot more that all of you can be involved in driving forward, is this digital public infrastructure. No country is more able to take government benefits and get them out efficiently and effectively to their citizens than India. You would have expected rich countries or others to do that, but in fact, they did not. And so that basic structure that starts with identity and bank accounts and payments is just foundational. And as part of this visit, I'm now seeing how that foundation is being built out in agriculture with profiles of farmers to understand what they need and give them advice, built out with health records so that we can help people not only with infectious diseases, but the challenge that's coming in the future with the growth of the non-communicable diseases being a huge thing, and that digital public infrastructure will help us with these climate problems. I was in Odisha yesterday, and what they showed is that they've registered the farmers and registered what type of crops they grow and what land they own. They literally have a control center. You know, when you walk in, you think, wow, this is agriculture, but you know, you've got a command center and maps and people doing queries and sending out messages. And so that all starts, you know, with an Aadhaar identity, listing those farmers, getting the information, making sure it's up to date.
So you got Mr. Bill Gates here talking about IDs, digital IDs, tracking farmers, tracking bank accounts, like, and you know, all these conspiracy theories from the last couple of years, we keep finding out are true. Like the conspiracy theory that Bill Gates was this terrible human being. Prior to seeing what we saw in the Epstein files, people thought that, you know, it's just, you know, people are just making things up. Bill Gates is a great guy, does a lot of philanthropy. And here we are finding out all the stuff that he's done, that, you know, he's one of the richest people in the world. And he's doing all these nefarious things behind the scenes. And it makes you take a look at everything he's doing with his foundation, and, you know, where he talks about climate change and he talks about digital IDs and he talks about tracking things. Like, what is he really, like, what is his real intentions? If he's such a terrible human being behind the scenes, like, what are you really doing all this stuff for?
I've never liked Bill Gates, especially because he was very involved in promoting software companies that were all part of No Child Left Behind stuff, like testing software and books that everybody should buy and blah, 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 blah. And it wasn't directly related to Microsoft, but there's no way that he wasn't involved in the marketing of those products that everybody bought in the early 2000s. You know, and
No Child Left Behind was 2004, right?
Well, technically, it's interesting because the one thing about George Bush Jr., you know, W. Bush, was he wanted to be this big education president. And obviously 9/11 happened and it changed his presidency significantly. But he wanted to make some major changes to education.
He was at a school when 9/11 happened.
Yeah. He really, really wanted to do a lot of reforms. And a lot of those reforms are controversial. But I think that it never happened because obviously he got very tied up with everything else that happened. And but he really wanted to but unfortunately, all these companies got heavily involved. And Gates made a ton of money by saying, well, we're going to sell computers to all the schools, and we're going to sell software to all the schools, and we're going to write stuff that's all for Common Core curriculum.
Trying to put laptops in schools and stuff like that.
So like, sure, he sold them at a discount, but he still sold them.
Yeah. Like,
he made a ton of money, and his software was in every classroom in front of 99, because there was only so many computers that were Macs. 99% of the computers in front of 99% of the kids and teachers were all Microsoft products. He made a ton of money. So, oh, great, he started a foundation. Good for him. Like, but who cares? I mean, whatever he put into the foundation pales compared to how much money that Microsoft made, as well as the companies that he helped fund.
I would love to take a look at that NDA that Melinda Gates had to sign when she got that divorce, because she's like hinting around things on podcasts, but she can't quite say it because she would probably get sued beyond recognition from the NDA she signed. But, you know, she divorced him, and she said recently on a podcast he's got some questions to answer for things that have come out. She didn't say, oh, that stuff's not real. That's like He's a bad man. He's a bad man, and he's got a lot of power, and he's got a lot of money, and he's just one guy. So how many others that have money and like Elon Musk is another one. Like Elon Musk tries to portray being this great free speech guy and, you know, Doge guy, and he's like in the Epstein files emailing Epstein about crazy parties that he wants to attend, when he was saying that he would have never went, and then now he's trying to say that they're trying to smear his name. It's like literally there in the email, in his own words, in his own texting the email, and he's not denying that that's not really him. He's just saying it's out of context. So all these people that have all this wealth and all this money, I saw a video the other day of the most prolific billionaires in the Epstein files, and it's a combined like 1.75 trillion of wealth of people that have been named so far, of billionaires in it that are in the files. And I mean, Musk makes up like half of it. He's like worth 825 billion right now, which is just crazy, absolutely asinine.
Well,
Musk
was named
when SpaceX goes public, he's going to be worth over $1 trillion.
Well, Forbes named him as the #1 innovator or whatever it was, in his last century, whatever it is. And I'm like, okay, nobody wants to buy Tesla. The stock's down. There are significantly better electric cars. Like, he didn't invent anything. Stop acting like he invented something. Like
great investor.
Great investor.
Great
so
investor.
He's a great. Don't call him #1
He's not a
innovator, call
founder.
him #1 investor.
He's not a
And
founder.
He was very good at marketing himself. Like, he obviously tricked a lot of people into believing that he was just like the world's new, Tesla, or anybody like Edison, whoever. But like, how innovative is he? His company's innovation, but there's a lot of other people a lot more innovative in terms of things that have been changed. But we all fell for it, and obviously Forbes thinks he's great. So
you can put this tweet on the screen. This is a good reframing tweet to kind of like see where we're at in current times. 1971, gold was $43 an ounce. Average hourly wage was $3.70. Time needed to buy 1 ounce of gold was 11.6 hours. 2026, gold is $5,000 an ounce. Average hourly wage, $28 an hour. Time needed to buy 1 ounce of gold, 179 hours. What does this mean? Your time is literally less valuable today than it was 50 years ago. Look at it this way. 1971, work 12 hours, get 1 ounce of gold. 2026, work 12 hours, get 0.07 ounces of gold. Gold is still gold. 1 hour is still 1 hour. WTF is happening. We haven't used sound money since 1971, when President Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard. Money became infinitely printable with nothing required to back it. So they printed money over and over and over and over and over again. Every time they printed new dollars, the dollar became worth less. Think about this. If there's 10 copies of a rare painting and they make 1,000 new copies, all the copies become worth less. That's what's happening when you increase the supply. What's been happening to the dollar since 1971? And guess what? The money you use represents your time. You give time and energy to the market. The market gives you money in return. That money reflects the time you gave. It's no wonder that time has become less valuable as the dollar has become less valuable. We don't use gold to measure our time and energy. We use a money that can be printed out of thin air by a small central group of elites that we have no real say over. Anybody with the power to print money from nothing will eventually abuse that power. And that's what's been happening since 1971. As a result, it now takes more of your time to earn the same amount of gold, which is completely backwards from a species that is supposed to be progressing. It should be going the other way. As we develop new technologies and bring more productivity to the market, it should take less time to earn the same amount of gold. The only way to stop your time from becoming less valuable is to use a different form of money. You must exit the dollar system. You cannot escape time debasement if you're in a system with monetary debasement. You need a system that cannot be debased. We have a monetary system that was explicitly created to prevent monetary debasement once and for all. We have evidence for those that have chosen that system. If your money was Bitcoin, this is how much time you would take to buy 1 ounce of gold. 2012, 208 days. 2016, 2 days, 22 hours. 2020, 4 hours, 28 minutes. 2024, 56 minutes. The dollar loses value over time because it can be infinitely debased. The longer you use it as money, the more time you lose. Bitcoin gains value over time because it's the only money that cannot be debased. The longer you use it as money, the more time you gain. The game is alignment. Choose wisely. I literally got involved in a, I don't say got involved, but somebody posted something about Bernie Sanders going to California to talk about taxing the wealthy, increasing the billionaire tax to attack the wealth gap. And it's like these people, and Bernie included, and the people that think that Bernie increasing taxes is going to fix anything are absolutely completely being fooled and duped and clueless to the real problem. Taxing people more is not going to solve the wealth gap, is not going to fix any of our problems. The money is broken. The system is broken. Taxing more, bringing in more money doesn't stop the spending problem because we print perpetually. As long as we keep printing, they'll keep spending. As long as they keep printing and spending, you can tax to infinity and it's never going to matter. Taking in more money doesn't solve the problem. Fixing the money is going to solve the problem. Until we have that real conversation, you're going to have to miss me with this Bernie Sanders nonsense and this tax the wealthy garbage. This Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren ideology is absolutely retarded. Absolutely, unequivocally retarded. If you subscribe to that ideology, you are part of the problem. Full stop. Yes, we have a wealth gap problem. Yes, it grows year by year. Yes, it needs to be addressed. But Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are not coming to the table with real solutions. Neither is President Trump. Neither is the current administration, to be totally fair and transparent. But Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren with this tax the rich nonsense is not the solution either. We have to address the broken monetary system, the continued debasement of our money, the devaluing of our time and energy. That's how we attack this. And anything other than that conversation is not a real, genuine discourse in regards to how we solve this. Any thoughts on that, Rich?
No, you're right. I mean, I understand. Ultimately, when it comes right down to it, like the rich are rich because they're smart, and no matter what you do, they're going to find a way to move their assets or whatever, or outsmart the tech system. And we just know that it'll happen. I mean, there's definitely some things that we could do to make sure companies are paying their fair share and all that stuff. Also making sure companies have fair wages without making minimum wage a thing. There should be something the government tries to do. That would be better. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter all that money that you think you're going to raise. It doesn't matter because we just spend it anyway. Like it's not going. Your taxes are not going to go down if they tax the rich. All they're going to do is they're just going to spend more on stuff. They're going to buy more planes and they're going to do more of this and we're going to have more wars. That's all they're going to do. They're not going to. So unless you finally get to a point where somebody has enough clout in politics to really bring people together and have a true mandate from the people, it's never going to change. It's just not going to change. And that's really why some people suspect some type of civil war / revolution, whether it's political or just, taking it to the streets kind of thing. I don't mean like burning down Washington Civil War. I mean just the philosophical burning down of Washington. That's the only thing that will change.
Yeah, let's wind this thing down. I'm gonna close out the podcast with a video. Vivek Ramaswamy being interviewed by Natalie Brunell. Before I do so, again, please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff that people do when they have platforms and they want to grow their platform. And as always, don't trust, verify.
My view of the promise of Bitcoin, though, is deeper than that. It is an opt-out from the broken financial architecture created by the U.S. Federal Reserve System. And I say this as somebody who wants to fight for, if I'm the U.S. president, I want to fight for the dollar to remain the reserve currency of the world. But, there's a funny thing that happens. There's two ways of doing that. One is if you're really insecure about your own value proposition, you try to smash out the competition. Well, the fact that the government officials are coming for alternative forms of currency the way they are, Bitcoin included, reflects an insecurity in their own value proposition. I look at it the other way. I think the existence of Bitcoin holds the dollar's feet to the fire to make sure that it can't be manipulated in a way that people don't just opt out and go the other direction. Because if they do have that opt-out, that's what actually keeps us on our own toes. And so I love the idea, the alluring vision, and it's why I was first drawn to it, certainly, of a total opt-out. Code is law. A Wild West jungle that completely opts out of the Byzantine government-captured, government-orchestrated corruption in the existing system. And I think that remains the promise as long as the proponents of it are willing to stick to that vision, as I do. And so we can get into a deeper conversation there, but the original promise was an opt-out, a backstop, an actual competitive outlet to say that if the existing architecture itself, the rails are broken, we're going to build new rails with a fixed supply. So not nobody can print more artificial snow like the current Federal Reserve does. No skiing artificial snow. You're skiing on a fixed supply of the real thing. Great. I think it's a beautiful system. Thanks
for watching. Peace.